Overturns President's directive. But whose order will stand?
It's about Kenya telling the world that we need a free and independent media.
United against media gagging. Journalists take to the streets to oppose draconian bill. Lack of height against the quest for heights of success. And the JKIA facelift. Airport upgrading seeks to meet international aviation standards. A very good evening to you on this third day of December 2013. Many thanks for joining us on our bulletin tonight. I'm all by myself tonight. Wilson Buru recuperating, but he will definitely be better and back with us tomorrow. On our bulletin tonight, we have a lot for you, including the fact that the Association of People with Dwarfism was launched today at the KICC. What are the challenges facing little people in this country? We will be talking about that, as well as our exclusive interview with one such star from Kenya who's made it big in Hollywood, and talking about what that association will do for people, including all of the top stories. Let's get our bulletin started, and we start off at the High Courts. The row over the appointment of a tribunal to investigate 6 members of the Judicial Service Commission took a new twist today. This after the High Court reinstated the suspended commissioners. In his ruling, a High Court Judge Justice George Odunga also barred the swearing-in of the tribunal. Rita Tanina begins our bulletin with the intrigues within the 3 arms of government.
A day after the JSC, through its lawyer Paul Mwite, moved to court seeking to block the swearing-in of a tribunal appointed to investigate 6 of its members, the commissioners got a reprieve. High Court Judge Justice George Odunga directed that the 6 commissioners remain in office pending the hearing and determination of their petition.
The effect of the grant of the orders of stay hearing will be to stay the suspension of the 6 commissioners pending inter partes hearing of this application and all further orders for the court.
The order now bars the swearing-in of the Aaron Ringera-led tribunal. In his ruling, Justice Odunga suspended last week's Gazette notice by President Uhuru Kenyatta, removing Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, Professor Christine Mango, Justice Mohamed Warsame, Reverend Samuel Kobia, Florence Mwangangi, and Emily Ominde from office.
The premises, I direct that this petition be placed before the Honorable the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya forthwith.
The Aaron Ringera Tribunal was yet to be sworn in. Experts argue, technically, it does not exist. And with the fact that the president cannot be sued, questions abound as to who exactly today's orders were directed at.
Conservatory orders or injunctions are only directed at the person whose action you are seeking to stop. So if we are seeking to stop an action by the president, then the order can only be directed at the president. If you direct it at somebody else who is not the one whose action you are seeking to stop, then it really is of no effect, because that action will still continue.
Sources say some members of the JSC were caught off guard by the decision to seek orders to stop the swearing-in of the tribunal. JSC lawyer Paul Mwite insists Monday's prayer before the court was merely an update of the petition, which was sanctioned by the JSC as a corporate entity when it sought to block the National Assembly from discussing the JSC. Mwite says he advised the Chief Justice of Monday's move. But legal experts argue that the decision to amend or update the earlier petition ought to have been approved by the JSC, which as of Monday did not have a quorum.
JSC give instructions to lawyers as a corporate entity. It is not something that you can call an individual member of the commission over to just get instructions from that particular member.
In his ruling, Justice Odunga directed that an earlier ruling barring the National Assembly from discussing the JSC still stands. The National Assembly has come under criticism for ignoring court orders blocking the tabling of a report and debate on the JSC. It turns out the orders did not reach Parliament.
Parliament was never served with any orders. We have not received any. We're just reading it in the newspapers.
The ruling by the court may add to the intrigues in the row over the appointment of the tribunal, and all eyes will now be on the Chief Justice to see whether he will form a bench to hear the JSC petition as JSC commissioners go back to work. Rita Tinina, KTN.
The Big Q in association with Kenya Power.
And that story forms the basis of our big question tonight. We're asking you, do you support the ruling that suspended JSC members be reinstated? Do you support the ruling that suspended JSC members resume office? Please do share your thoughts with us on our text SMS platform. That's 22155. Start with a yes or no, followed by a brief comment. You can also get us on Twitter. You can tweet me at Yvonne Okwara and at KTN Kenya. Remember, we'll give you the news poll at the end of this live newscast.
Get power information right at your fingertips. Dial star 551 # Kenya Power.
Right, like I was saying, let's move on to matters of the media. Hundreds of journalists today staged a protest march against the controversial media bill. The protests were held in different parts of the country. Catherine Omondo was one of the protesters, and she now tells the media side of the story.
These men and women are accustomed to being behind the camera and not in front of it. But the roles have changed, if only for a moment. Their careers depend on it. And so are Kenyans' freedom to information.
Mimi kama mwandishi wa habari ambaye anashughulika sana mambo ya upekuzi, ni kwamba kuna vipengele kadhaa ambavyo huenda vikaniathiri mimi kama mwandishi wa habari. Kwa mfano, huo mswada hauniruhusu mimi kufanya ile kitu inaitwa secret filming. Siwezi fanya. Na hiyo ndio kazi yangu kama mwandishi wa habari ambaye anafanya upekuzi.
When you throw a blanket law like this one and say that this is what you're going to be charging journalists, or this is what you're going to be charging media houses for this and that, then I think it's going to be very wrong, and we're going back to the dark days when journalists were not able to express themselves well and pass information that the public really needs to know.
That the president, having given the memorandum, it is now up to the National Assembly to ensure that they act in the best interest of the Constitution and the people of Kenya. I think we must not use our tyranny of numbers to reflect a tyranny of ignorance, where we reverse back the kinds of gains that we have made in Kenya constitutionally to date.
Journalists from across the country, from all walks of life, held their protests today within Nairobi City. The second such protest since 2008, when the Kenya Information and Communication Act was introduced. But according to CIC, the presidential amendments were actually better for the bill and not worse. The Commission for the Implementation of the Constitution had first spoken against the bill passed by Parliament. After the President sent the bill back to the floor of the House with his amendments, CIC officials are of the opinion that these amendments align the bill with the Constitution and that there is nothing to worry about. But media practitioners maintain that the President only stirred the pot. The bill was to be discussed today but was removed from the order papers of the National Assembly as discussions between media practitioners and the Parliamentary Select Committee on Energy and Communication enter the second day. And it seems that the Parliamentary Committee has agreed to front amendments on the floor of the House on Wednesday, the 4th of December.
That the KICA bill will only regulate infrastructural issues in connection with media, which include licensing, signal distribution, courier services, postal services, telecommunication services, among others, to regulate the same that will fall within the ambit of the KICA bill.
According to the amendments, journalists will only appear before the Media Complaints Commission that will be constituted under the Media Council bill, and that practicing journalists found guilty of malpractice shall pay a fine not exceeding 100,000 shillings.
The members of the tribunal will be nominated by a selection panel from the industry, and they will forward the names of the chairperson and the members of both the authority and the council to the CS only for gazetting. Therefore, there will be no leeway, there will be no hand of government in the appointment process.
If this course of action does not bear fruit, media stakeholders will try and have the Speaker of the National Assembly reconvene Parliament in 3 months to address the contentious issues.
Catherine Omwando, KTN.
And indeed, that is forming, let's take a look at just some of those issues that we are discussing today. Indeed, the Media Council of Kenya had that meeting with the Parliamentary Committee on Energy, Information and Communications to raise just some of those contentious issues. And here now is a look at just what those issues are and what the media wants. Indeed, terming this kicker bill as draconian, and they are clear on what they don't want. So let's take a look at some of those contentious issues. The media has raised issues with the Multimedia Tribunal to begin with, and the media has been very clear on what they feel this tribunal should be handling, and they have said very clearly that this should not be handling issues to do with the ethical conduct of journalists, but instead should stick to matters of media infrastructure and taking a look at signal distribution, and those are the matters that they want. And we'll just move to the next one now, just so that you can take a look at some of those issues. They have also raised issues, of course, with the constitution of that Multimedia Tribunal, who gets to appoint the members of this, taking issue with the fact that this should be done by the Cabinet Secretary or by the President, citing interference from the government. And also, of course, talking about the fact that this Multimedia Tribunal might include members of who are not part of the media fraternity, such as the Kenya National Union of Teachers, and in so doing might compromise the work of the media. Let's take a look at another issue that the media has raised regarding discipline issues. And this, of course, is where we talk about the issues of fines. Now, by now, you know that that media bill proposes 20 million shilling fine for a media house that speaks out of turn, and 500,000 shillings for a journalist who goes against that conduct. What does the media have against this? Simply the fact that it is unsustainable. And also, of course, due to the fact that the fines have not been issued based on specific issues that a journalist may have contravened. And I believe they managed to reach some consensus on this in that meeting today. Let's finally take a look at another contentious issue, and this would be the role of the bill. The memorandum that was sent by the President back to Parliament regarding this bill actually talks about the fact that the Kenya Editors Guild and the Kenya Union of Journalists should not be a part of that selection panel. Now, this is where the issue of contention is, and of course stating that they should be part and parcel of that selection panel to make sure that they understand the issues to do with the media. Now, the council wants the bill to only deal with issues of infrastructure, like we talked about before: licensing, signal distribution, courier services, and telecoms. These are some of the issues that the Media Council has against the kicker bill. And like we said, a discussion was had between the two of them, and we understand there is some consensus that has been reached on this issue. And so we're hoping to see how this one plays out, because this committee will then be tabling this on the floor of the House, and it'll then be debated. Only then will we know whether which way this will go. And also, just a reminder for you, for more on these issues, Jamle Kamau, who's the chair of that commission, together with David Ohito, who's the deputy chair of the Kenya Editors Guild, will be live tomorrow on Morning Express with Sophia Wanuna. You do not want to miss that discussion to get some clarity on these issues. Right, let's move away to other matters now, and some really good news. In the recent past, the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport has been overwhelmed by a series of crises that have raised questions about the airport's ability to retain its position as the transport and economic hub of the region and the aviation hub of Africa, especially given the competition emerging from neighboring countries. But today, President Uhuru Kenyatta was on hand to commission the construction of a new greenfield terminal that demonstrates the country's resolve to remain a relevant transport hub. Adelaide Changola tells us about the new JKIA terminal.
An airport is a gateway for visitors entering the country and acts like a window for passengers on transit.
And so far, the impression the current airport has given is far from positive or lasting. The combined impact of disorganization, years of little investment in the airport, has seen Jomo Kenyatta International Airport lose its place as the aviation hub of Africa. Coupled with this, August 2013 marked one of the darkest months for Kenya's aviation industry. In a span of 1 week, the facility experienced bad press occasioned by the eviction of duty-free shops, a fuel supply hitch, and a dawn inferno that paralyzed operations at the third busiest airport in Africa. All these are now in the past, and JKIA is gearing up for major investments, the Greenfields Terminal. The terminal is to be built in an elongated X design, which is an upgrade of the open apron design and the linear design to facilitate easy, quick access and separation of both departing and arriving passengers. The terminal will boast of the highest ground and passenger handling capacity of any single terminal in Africa, with a capacity of up to 20 million passengers annually. This will be higher than South Africa's Oliver Tambo Airport Central Terminal, which has a capacity of 12 million passengers annually. On completion in 2016, JKIA will be unrivaled in a capacity of over 29 million passengers annually.
Our intention is to make Jomo Kenyatta International Airport the most convenient, comfortable, and secure airport in Africa.
According to the plan, the terminal's arrival and departure units will be served by a dedicated bus and an elevated railway. This will be key to Kenya's quest for a Category 1 status by the United States Aviation Federation Administration.
The standard gauge railway line from Mombasa through to Uganda, Rwanda, and South Sudan, which when completed, will radically enhance the flow of people and cargo to and from these states.
The terminal will also feature 60 international check-in counters, have a capacity to handle traffic of 3,133 international passengers, 2,403 transiting passengers, and 845 domestic passengers in a typical peak hour. The Greenfield Terminal will also feature 32 air bridges and have 47 parking stands, which will effectively deal with parking problems for Kenya Airways.
My government will therefore remain committed towards improving the existing infrastructure and provide an efficient, conducive, and enabling environment to facilitate Kenya Airways and other local airlines to invest in order to create wealth and empower our people.
The new airport terminal will also feature automated baggage handling services as well as a central security check. The project is expected to cost taxpayers over 55 billion shillings as Kenya seeks to transition into a middle-income economy by the year 2030.
The construction of this new Greenfield terminal, with a capacity to handle more than 20 million passengers, and eventually a second runway that is planned for this airport, will enable Kenya attain her National Vision 2030 aspirations to be a middle-income country.
Adelaide Changole, KTN.
Now, while persons with dwarfism strive to keep up with their able-bodied counterparts, it isn't always easy, given that the modern world is configured for the comfort of those of ordinary heights. Now, simple things such as unlocking doors or boarding vehicles often prove difficult for them, yet they struggle on, hoping to one day attain the success achieved by those who have managed to leave their mark in spite of or because of their diminutive stature. Wilkie Stanyaba with the plight of persons with dwarfism.
The big things do not faze Naomi Wangoi. Every day she joins the millions of Kenyans working to build the nation. She makes her contribution as an attendant at this cyber cafe in Umoja Estate. But it's the little things that sometimes prove difficult, like turning on the lights or reaching her desk. Naomi is a person with dwarfism, and it has colored her whole life. Naomi often requires help to accomplish several tasks, like accessing her house.
Jirani lazima awe ndio nikifika kutoka kazini aweze kunifungulia mlango na niingie nifanye kazi zangu za.
But 25-year-old Naomi wants to be independent and has devised ways of accomplishing many other tasks, such as hanging up her own clothes. Everything is an adventure because of her diminutive stature. Naomi stopped growing in height when she was 10 years old. Doctors told her parents she was a person with dwarfism, and they enrolled her in a special school. The reality of dwarfism, however, hit her when she completed her schooling. She would find that persons with dwarfism often have difficulty finding employment.
Kwanza ukiingia na kuangalia zile, unaona tu kwa ameshtuka kigafla.
Simple things such as finding clothes is also difficult.
Lazima uende, ukishanunua uende unapeleka kwa fundi wa nguo akukatie.
And relationships get even more complicated for persons with dwarfism, especially when they date able-bodied people. And this is why almost 1,000 persons with dwarfism congregated at the Kenyatta International Conference Center, marking the launch of the Association of People with Dwarfism. The key guest, Kiran Shah, a person with dwarfism who was born in Kenya and a star in his own right. He found fame as an actor in Hollywood in the movies The Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia. Everyone here hoping that his success would rub off on them. In humans, dwarfism is sometimes defined as an adult height of less than 4 feet 10 inches. In Kenya, they are regarded as persons with disability and exempted from paying tax. But what they want more than anything else is a chance to prove that in spite of their lack of height or because of it, they too can attain dizzying heights of success. Turning the lights on and off is a simple task that many of us often take for granted, but these tasks are complicated for persons with dwarfism. They, however, say with a little more consideration, they can lead the kind of normal, comfortable lives that the rest of the population leads. Wilkiston Abwa, KTN in Nairobi.
Right, and of course, as you've seen from Wilkiston Abwa's story, some of the things we take for granted, not necessarily so for other people who are not normal, as it were. And we're glad to be joined this evening by Kiran Shah. If you're a movie buff, and if you've watched Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, then you know who we're speaking to tonight. His name is Kiran Shah, as an actor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, and indeed, it's interesting to know that we actually, I've got to say this, that we grew up in the same area.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
I mean, probably before your birth, I was there in Nagara Road.
Yes. Okay, interesting. The neighborhood is still the same. Let's get to our interview. You've had such success, you know, in film and in Hollywood, but I bet that's not been, you know, without its challenges. Tell us about that, going, you know, up to where you have, and of course also for persons living with dwarfism.
Well, challenges are always going to be there, no matter what. If you are a little person like me or the other little people, then yeah, you got a little bit more challenges. When I started working, I started out as a mime artist, and then I moved on to the movies, and the challenge was to get in there, get my foot in there and make it work. And I was lucky that the first movie I did, there was a stunt coordinator called Bob Anderson who saw me and picked me, and he went, yeah, you can do the stunts for the girl I was standing in for. And at the same time at Penwell Studios, there was a producer called John Dark. He was making a movie called, at that time he was making a movie called People That Time Forgot. And there was a tiny character of a little guy, an evil little guy, a sidekick to a kind of a wild king. And he asked me to do the audition for that, and I did. And after 2 days, they went yes, and I was in. But the challenge is that you gotta be at the right place at the right time. But like any other actor, you have to struggle. You have to get your craft together, your skills together, and
okay. And the rest, as they say, is history. Yeah. The challenges of little people, the challenges that they face, and let's get that right. Little people is the politically correct term. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Important for all of us to note. But just the challenges of being a little person in a world that's geared for everybody else who has normal height.
It's true, like you saw that a minute ago, that to reach the switch light, or you know, things like that can happen. Then the worktops are built for ordinary people, and we have to either carry a stool or, like me, I jump on things and get what I want. But you know, you got to find a way to do it. Things are not really built for little people or any disabled people.
And you are in the country for the launch of the Association of People with Dwarfism. What is an association like this? What benefits would it confer on little people? Why have this association?
Right. Today was the launch day. We launched the association today. The benefit for joining the association is the association is going to be fighting for you to get an education. If you're a young adult, then the idea is to educate them even further so they can get into better jobs, better environment. At the moment, what's happening is the education aspect of that side is quite little. That's what I understand. In the jobs, people are treated like little people are treated like kids. Spoken to like a kid and things like that should not be happening, because we are young adults, and we need to be treated like adults. Indeed. And not anything else. And pay should be like adults, not you're little, that means we are going to pay you less. That's not right, because we got the same brain as everybody else.
Indeed. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us. Congratulations on this launch, and indeed, thank you for coming back home.
Thank you.
Indeed, it's been a pleasure.